When a queen signs her name, people far away hear the sound, not the scratch of the quill, but the clatter of keys, the thud of doors, the dull weight of a headsman's axe being lifted from its peg. In early February 1587, Elizabeth Tudor put ink to a warrant. A week later, inside the Great Hall at Fotheringhay, her cousin Mary Stuart walked onto a scaffold draped in black. This wasn't jealousy played as theatre, it was procedure, built from paper, cipher, counsel, and ceremony. Start where the paths cross. Two queens, one disputed future. Elizabeth I rules England, Protestant and unmarried, her legitimacy still questioned by Catholics who remember the old faith and the old line. Mary, Queen of Scots, is Catholic, a widow of a French king, and, by many reckonings, the next in line if Elizabeth dies without an heir. In 1568, Mary flees a Scottish crisis and lands in England seeking help. She does not get freedom. She gets custody in fine houses under watchful noble hosts. It is polite, and it is a prison. Plots bloom in that greenhouse, Ridolfi in the early 1570s, whereas the Throckmorton plot came later in 1583. Each time, letters and promises swirl around Mary's name, and each time Elizabeth survives, harder than before. After a northern rising and fresh alarms, the state sharpens its tools. Loyalists bind themselves in a bond that swears to protect the Queen's life. Then Parliament passes a statute, often called the Act for the Queen's Safety, that sets out what happens if a claimant is tied to an attempt on Elizabeth. Inquiry by commissioners, judgment, and, if proved, removal from succession and death. The message is plain. You may argue for the crown in law. You may not reach for it with knives. By 1586, the net is set. Mary's correspondence moves again, hidden and clever, letters sealed with ciphers, carried in secret, slipped through a brewer's roots at her place of confinement. What Mary cannot see is the table in London where those same letters are opened, copied, and resealed with practiced hands. Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth's principal secretary, runs a patient office, couriers tracked, alphabets broken, replies watched. A controlled channel is allowed to run so that conspirators will use it. A young gentleman named Anthony Babington writes bold words about rescuing Mary and striking at Elizabeth. Mary received Babington's letter about rescuing her and assassinating Elizabeth, and she wrote back. In Mary's reply, the government, Walsingham, and the commissioners claimed they found wording that approved the assassination plan. The cipher clerk notes, the copy is made, the seal is closed again, and the packet goes back as if nothing has happened. The case shifts from shadow to daylight. Commissioners ride to Fotheringhay to convene a special court in October 1586. Mary refuses the court's right to judge a foreign-born, anointed monarch. Then she argues anyway, cleverly without counsel, saying she sought liberty, not treason. The commissioners hear copied letters and sworn statements. They weigh the statute crafted for this moment. They find her guilty of compassing the Queen's death. The paperwork begins to move. Elizabeth now stands alone with a decision that is both narrow and enormous. Narrow, because the legal track is laid, a verdict, a warrant, a seal. Enormous, because executing an anointed cousin sets a precedent and opens doors no monarch wants open. Execute Mary, and Spain has its pretext. Spare her, and England keeps a living banner for rebels. Keep her alive, and the plots circle again. But if you kill her, you kill more than a person. You break a rule older than your own crown. Councillors press. Parliament nods approval. Elizabeth hesitates. She wants safety without stain. After the guilty verdict, advisors debate and send letters for weeks. Eventually, a formal execution warrant is written and shown to Elizabeth, and she signs it. However, what happened immediately after that is disputed by historians. Elizabeth tells her secretary, William Davison, not to dispatch the paper at once. The council, fearing a reversal, moves it forward anyway. The sheriff receives it. Fotheringhay prepares. After Mary is dead, Elizabeth will punish Davison, fine him, and cast blame for haste. Whether her anger was sincere or performative remains debated. The fact that matters to the scaffold is simple. The warrant bore her name. Dawn breaks cold on the 8th of February, 1587. The hall at Fotheringhay fills with officials and witnesses. A prayer book lies ready. A block and axe wait on the dais. Mary enters composed, supported by attendants. Reports from the time describe a dark gown with a crimson layer beneath, a colour many readers would take as the shade of martyrdom. She forgives the executioner. She prays in Latin. She lays her head down and stretches her arms. The first stroke does not end it. The second does. Some eyewitness reports say the executioner needed a third chop because Mary's neck wasn't fully cut by the first two strokes. One report claims that when the headsman lifted the head by the hair, a wig came away. Treat that as reported detail, not proof. What is certain is that a life ended, and England's enemies took their line. The Protestant Queen has killed a Catholic queen. Back in London, Elizabeth's message is careful. She mourns the necessity. She blames Davison for dispatching the warrant without her final word. She sends measured letters to foreign courts. James VI of Scotland, Mary's son, protests, but he reads the map, not the emotion. His long game is England's throne, and he is more likely to reach it by peace than by war. Philip II of Spain, already planning, folds Mary's death into his case against England. Pamphlets and sermons on both sides get to work, and memory begins to harden. What looks like passion at a distance feels like paperwork up close. Men in small rooms broke ciphers and logged couriers by name. Notaries wrote down questions and answers word for word. Lawyers drew a path from statute to sentence. Secretaries guarded a stamped warrant in a locked coffer. The seal was warmed. Wax took the impression of the enthroned monarch. A sheriff touched the paper and knew what he had to do. The hall was arranged not to shock, but to reassure. Witnesses in place, prayers said, a clean stroke if the man was strong and the wood was set right. The form made it look like law at work. The form also made it possible to live with. Standing back, you can see how images did their share of the labor. Elizabeth's portraits, glittering, careful, composed, do not show doubt. On the other hand, Mary's portraits, softened by later copies, turned toward pathos. After the scaffold, woodcut broadsides and printed accounts race through Europe. One set paints Mary as a martyr, taking the robe of crimson as a sign from heaven. Another paints Elizabeth as a guardian of a besieged commonwealth, doing the hard thing to preserve the realm. Pictures do not judge, they recruit. There is a temptation to reduce this to character. A jealous queen, a reckless cousin. It is tidier that way. But the story is stronger and more disturbing when you keep the machinery in view. Spies who open letters without breaking a seal, clerks who file the copies, counsellors who learn when to press and when to hold back, a secretary who reads his sovereign's mood and misreads it, or is sacrificed after the fact so the crown can keep its distance from its own act. A scaffold built with measured timbers, a crowd managed by ushers, a body taken away according to instruction. Nothing in that list is romantic. Everything in it is the point. What about the details people argue over? Keep them in their place. Crimson at Fotheringhay is widely reported. The exact shade and fabrics vary by account. The wig detail appears in some eyewitness reports. It may be true, or it may be the kind of vivid addition that sticks whether or not it is accurate. Elizabeth's anger at Davison is recorded and costly to him. Whether it was genuine regret or necessary theatre is a judgment you may make. But your judgment does not change the signed name on the warrant. The facts that carry weight are already heavy enough. If you want a single sentence that explains why this death still matters, try this one. A state with strong paperwork can make a killing feel like administration. That is not unique to Tudor England. It is not confined to monarchies. It is a lesson about how power prefers to move, quietly, with documents, witnessed by men who can swear that everything was regular. In that sense, the scaffold at Fotheringhay is a study in the comfort of form. Think back to the first sound, not the axe, the pen. A queen signs, and far away a sheriff reads. A clerk unlocks a coffer and takes out a folded sheet. A seal glows against warm wax and cools. Men ride with a packet. A hall fills. A prayer rises. A blade falls. Then portraits and pamphlets pick up the work and decide how you will remember it. People like to say, Elizabeth did or did not mean it. The better sentence is colder and closer to the truth. She meant to remain queen, and the machinery she had built showed her how. And that is why, centuries later, the story closes not with a scream, but with an image. Elizabeth's face, calm and jeweled. Mary's, serene in death on a printed page. Between them, a warrant, a seal, a set of signatures. Family is the headline, administration is the article. The execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, was carried out by a cousin. It was also carried out by a system.